Okay, real short little video on adding some caustics into an underwater scene. It's by no way the only way to do it, but it's a pretty reasonable, good way to fake it and make it look pretty good. So as you can see, I've created my background underwater, some underwater landscape kind of junk, and I've got two caustic layers. So first of all, I'll start with the top one, and it is spaced pretty evenly. I just imported it, and let me show transformation controls and get it up here, and I'll hide this background one so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to change right now the blending mode, or what do they call it in Photoshop? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm going to go with screen. I could go, if I inverted it, I could do soft light or something, but screen's good enough for what I'm going to be doing here. And it is as wide as the image, so this one's 1600 pixels wide. I've got to zoom out here to make this work really pretty good so I can stretch it enough. And I'm going to go on, do a Control T, and I want to, on this one, I'm going to pull these top corners out really a lot. So I'm holding the control button and pulling it out both these sides. Now the point is, I want to make it look like it's fading into the background, and probably I could have used a bit smaller pattern for doing this, but it'll work the same. So enter that. That's now selected, and what I want to do on here is, okay, there we go, and bring this over, and I'm going to add the clipping mask. And so, whoops, I want to add one up to this. So if I can, there. And what I want to do on here is just add a gradient. So black and white selected. I'm going to get the paint bucket tool, but pick gradient. And I can never remember how the gradients work in Photoshop, so whether I've got to drag top to bottom or bottom to top. And that didn't work very good. So select the clipping mask. And that didn't work very good. So what am I doing wrong here? There's always something I'm doing wrong. Whoops. Okay, so we get this extra window up, which I haven't been in any before, so I'm going to go out of it. Cancel that, and yeah, it did something, but I don't want that, so let's delete that and try to come back to this one. Okay, that's the right thing, Control Z, but I want to do it from up here. Control Z, and I want to go black to white, so I don't know why it's not working on the mask. So I'm not going, maybe it is working on the mask. A little bit. Well, so you see what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get it to fade out. And obviously it's taken me a little bit longer than I'd like. That it will be good enough. So what I do now is I'm going to come back in and I'm going to do a transform, edit, transform, just do a free transform. And I'm going to hold the shift so I don't have to scale it. And what I'm doing is getting that to work up above, and it'll fade in. And I could have done it off one side or the other. Let me duplicate this. Let me get rid of the layer mask. I don't think that's doing anything. Okay, I'm going to duplicate this. Control J. And that is even looking a little better. Screen. I might want to go. I got to go screen with it to make it work. So now I've got the ripples looking a little stronger. This top layer, I'm going to blur it a little bit. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and that'll just help with it looking, slightly more like ripples up there. I really need a smaller pattern, but it's going to be okay. So now here's the bottom one, and what I'm going to do is bring it down here over this my seascape down here, and I'm going to shift Control T so I can scale it and get it down to about this size that I want. And this is just to add some of the same kind of ripple effect onto what we've got going on the bottom here. I'm going to come under here and take this, and I'm going to warp it. So I want to go ahead and change let's do a screen on here, and it'll be less opaque. But I just want to kind of bend it so it's conforming a little bit to the ocean. And this, again, depending on how careful you want to be, you can do a lot of this or a little bit of this, or it just doesn't matter that much. So I'm going to just go with that. I'm going to control click that bottom layer. I'm going to invert the selection, and I'm going to backspace it, and make sure I'm on the right layer. Okay, I want to backspace it, clear off the extra, and this is, I'm going to duplicate this one. Okay, and I'm going to blur these ones quite a bit, so I'm going to merge these layers. And this is all really depends on what you're trying to do. So this is going to blur quite a bit. Image. Actually, what I ought to do is pull these bottom edges out. So let me do that. Alt. Give me a little bit of perspective if I can get it to do it. So they're a little fatter, closer to me. And enter, commit that transform. And I'm going to have to clear it again. And let me load this. Select, invert. space. Okay, now I've pretty much got my caustics on the ground, which I don't want them to be. Whoops, that one is the wrong one. So the caustics down here, I want them to be not nearly as strong because I don't want them to look like the light coming through up here. This is a little too light, but it's going to work anyway. And so these are good. I'm going to blur them a little bit. Filter, Gaussian blur. That's okay. Instead of redoing it, I'm going to come on, Don. I'm going to fade that just a little bit. Edit, stroke, where is it? Cut, copy, image, trim, blah, blah, layer. Oh, everything always moves for me, so now I know where anything is. Edit. There we go. So I want it to show up, but I just don't want it to show up quite as much. Okay, one last thing, and that is I'm going to create a new layer, and this is going to be to create some God rays. So I'm going to pick just a really simple brush here, just this one probably, but I'm going to make a selection on the top of this new layer. So like so, and I want to use some white, and so with this brush I want to make it bigger. And I'm going to make it pretty hard. And I do want the opacity to be 100%. So now I'm going to just go. Now, littler brush. And a little brush. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm going to make light streaks. So Control D to deselect that, and Control T to transform it, and I'm going to hold the Shift key. I'm going to drag my cool light streaks all the way down, and I'm going to skew it so they come in from the side. Go Enter and do another Control T, because I want them to pretty much go all the way across. I don't care if a little bit hangs out here and there. Something like that. These are probably too big, but just for examples purposes, I think it's okay. Now I'm going to, actually those are too thick. Okay, so Control T, Shift, and I'm just going to leave them like they are. I'm going to skew them a little bit. Doesn't matter which direction, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these work, and then I'm going to fill in the blanks if I need to. So there they are. Enter, and now I want to filter, blur, and I probably made these too big, but we'll see what happens. So I'm blurring them quite a bit. That's really okay, actually. And let me go do a Control T again so I can just stretch them out. Now I'm going to do it this way. So I duplicated it, and I want the streaks not nearly as big. So I'm going to merge these two layers. And they are normal layers. I may want to do something like overlay, and soft light's always a pretty good one too. And I want to let's try to create a clipping mask again. Nope, that's the wrong thing. A clipping mask above it. So and let's try filling it again. If I can't, I'm just going to erase because I'm too lazy to fight it too much. And I don't know why I just can't get it to work. Let me reverse the gradient. So that's actually kind of what I want it to do, but on a mask. Normal, reverse. Okay, I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, now we went here again. Seemed to work last time. I'll go back. Okay, this live demo, sorry, delete. Okay, I'm going to do this. And I'll just do this gradient on here. And let's make it a clipping mask. And that didn't work a bit, so never mind. Get rid of that, and I'm going to erase. So get an eraser. I am not staying current enough with this whole digital, obviously. Okay, and so then streaks coming through. I would play with the opacity so you can see them, but they're not coming through too much. I might duplicate this layer, and I don't know if this is actually going to work, but I'm going to try it. So actually, I think I might like. You can decide whether you like the blurry one or not. Make the opacity less. So on this, I'm going to duplicate it, Control J. And I'm going to change the method to dissolve, which there, doesn't that look wonderful? And lower the opacity way down. And that's not working like I wanted it to. So never mind, we'll get that out of there. So I would go back in and probably also on this caustics layer down here, you know, do a little bit of erasing here and there, maybe a little bit of erasing on both of these, so I get just the look that I want. Then you can populate this with all of your fish and coral and all that kind of stuff. Oh, man, I hope this is, it's been fast, it's been a little bit just kind of by the seat of my pants, grabbing resources that I probably should have searched for better ones, but I hope this makes sense to you. If not, ask me some questions, okay?